25, and this is a regular meeting of the Board of Education. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. And Mr. Kern, if you would, please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Here.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien? Is not going.
He is absent, and just let me point out real quickly that he got called at the last minute for a business meeting out of state, and I think it's worth mentioning, to his credit, it's the first meeting he's missed in 5 years, so that's very nice of Mr. Kern's, Mr. O'Brien's effort.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
And Mr. King?
Here. And if you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I switched, don't you sit?
Regarding the agenda, we have a couple of amendments to make, so the motion would please include these amendments.
Yes, Mr. King, we have two items to add to the superintendent action items. So you have that information with you. A9 will be added and B3 will be an addition. And then if you'll take notice on the superintendent action items, A6, we are deleting Rebecca Hill, Liberty High School Math, approved certified unpaid leave of absence, because we actually approved that at a previous meeting, so we don't want to approve it twice. So those are three amendments or changes to the agenda you'll be approving.
So with those three amendments, may we have a motion to approve the agenda, please? And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kern, if you would, please.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, motion passes 4-0 for the agenda. We have a very important presentation this evening from the Shanahan Girls Robotics Group, so if you would, please. Shenanigans.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Rafe. My name is Sarah Wisniewski, and I'm the 8th grade math teacher at Shanahan's for Shanahan's iSTEM program. And I'm here with our FLL robotics team, Shenanigans. FLL stands for First Lego League Robotics, and it's a worldwide program and competition. Our team is sponsored by the OSU Women in Engineering Outreach Program. That's why it's an all-girls team. We're often asked about that. Do we have a boys team? Not currently, but open to that. Even though it's called FLL Robotics, it's only the robot challenge portion is only one part of their competition score. They also have to present a project and demonstrate the corporation's core values. This is the first Shanahan team to advance beyond the first level of competition, and the coaches are really just facilitators. I'm there for the room to be the adult and ask questions and do the paperwork, but really all the work is from our ladies up here, so I'm going to turn over the rest of the presentation to them.
Hello, we are the Shenanigans. I'm Aditi, and this is Vasani, Akila, Priyanka, Nikita, Vasani, Anushka, and Isabel. And Davy, sorry.
Every year, the FLL team shows different topics. This year's topic was Trash Trek, and we chose the problem of recycling, and we mainly chose the problem of inconvenience of recycling.
After a lot of emailing, like a lot of contacts, we were finally able to meet with Swaco, a landfill site, and Mr. Jerry Olmsted was our tour guide, and we had a lot of fun time during our winter break. And we saw that 75% of the trash that gets put into the landfill can actually be recycled. So we came up with a creative trash can as our solution for this problem.
So to extend on what Akila said, basically we learned that the diversion of trash, which was basically say the landfill receives a bunch of trash, the diversion of trash would be like dividing the trash into recyclables, just trash, and then compost. So we talked to our solution, which is this trash can right here, to Jerry, and he really liked it because he said that it enforced the diversion of trash, which was the main reason why the landfills are being filled up at a quicker rate than they should be. So what's going on here, this is the solar panel lid, and basically what happens, you throw in the trash, and these organizing bars sort it out depending on what type it is. It might sound very simple, but we really talked to a bunch of experts. We did interviews, we did a lot of research, and the people that we went to really agreed with our idea.
So this trash can is meant for office uses and big businesses. So we provided it in 3 different sizes: 22-gallon, 32-gallon, and 64-gallon. And the cost ranges up to $171 to $252. And the trash can is very is very tall. So as you saw in the blueprint. And there's also a DIY manual that comes in. You guys have that right there, the big one. It basically, with the recyclables, we can reuse, putting another part of the recycling cycle in it.
So while we were at Swaco, we took some pictures, and may I have the clicker, please? Yes, please. Yeah, sorry. No problem. So as you can see over here, this is a tipper. So you see those trucks that like pass by with a bunch of trash in them? This is what they do to those little boxes. They tip it, and all that trash you see there, it goes right into the landfill. And this is a picture of all of us when we met with Mr. Jerry Olmsted, and he was an awesome tour guide. So he went through and explained us the behind the scenes. And here is just another picture of the landfill. This is one of the old landfills that was already filled up, and we're trying to actually prevent this from happening at a quicker rate with our awesome trash can.
So this is our robot. We as a team together came up with the name Silly Goose for it.
Yeah, just to expand on what Anushka said, this is just the basic build. So we had a bunch of other attachments that we used to solve all of these missions that you can see here on the floor. So yeah, this is just the basic build. This is the brick, or the memory card, or whatever you want to call it. So what you do, you just connect it, you just hook it up to the computer, and all of the files or programs that you created are transferred to this brick, and then they're carried out by these motors.
For the robot game, we had to complete several programs for one mission, and we completed several missions. For each mission we successfully completed, we got a certain amount of points, which helped determine who moved on to the next round. And two of the programs we did is, one of them is you had to grab the plastic bag with the claw and pull it back to home. And another one is you had to send the robot to hit that yellow piece over there, and it would send a little puck out, and that would be the composting mission.
Okay, we will have any volunteers that might want to volunteer with the interactive part of the robot.
They're looking at me.
Yes, they are. You are the rookie board member.
The choice has been made, I think.
I'll do it, but they might be sorry.
So yeah, just to clarify, these are just some of the many missions that we had. We didn't know that we would be invited for this board presentation, so we kind of took a lot of things apart. And ISEM, continued, and we went on to the science fair. So some people used the robots. So we had to build this from scratch again. We lost a lot of attachments, but, we just made another attachment for this mission specifically.
And And you can take the candy.
So, yeah, obviously this is a very, very simple mission. We usually do a lot of rotations, a lot of work with the motors and attachments. But yeah, this one just went forward and came back. So.
So not only FLL tested us on our robotic skills or our problem-solving skills, they also tested us on our collaboration and our teamwork skills. So we had this section of the competition called Core Values, and basically they wanted to see how well can a team collaborate, how well can they work together. So basically they wanted to find a team where there was determination and dedication. So when we moved on to the drone competition, the week before, one of our team members fell sick. Baby, right there. She knew most of the things, but the night before the competition, we FaceTimed her, and we were interacting with her, putting the camera right up to the robot, and like fixing everything, and like making final touches to our project. And when we told the judges about this, they were impressed by how determined and how dedicated we were to working together. Because no matter what came in our way, we still accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. And Aditi is coming around with the trophy to see what we won at the competition at Jerome High School.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
So the picture in the top right is a picture of us doing the human knot. The picture, the top left, that's Nikita helping Anushka find one of the pieces we needed to build an extension. The bottom right is us like doing the no voice challenge. We had to figure out each other's birthdays using our fingers and numbers like that. And that's Akila over there helping a team member program. And some of the core values are, we are a team. We do the work to find the solutions with guidance from our coaches and mentors. We know our coaches and mentors don't have all the answers. We learn together. We honor the spirit of friendly competition. What we discover is more important than what we win. And we have fun.
And if you want to like click on any of those links, there's more information. If you have any questions from Mrs. Wisniewski, you can contact her at that email, and we will entertain any questions now.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. So, do you keep meeting? Do you have more projects to do, or what happens now?
Well, we meet during the robotic season, we were meeting twice a week, so Mondays and Wednesdays after school. So we were actually taking time out of our after school hours just to meet together and accomplish a goal, 3 goals actually. So that's basically it. Yeah, we had 3 projects going simultaneously.
Wow.
So yeah, just to
Great.
clarify, FLL is like a 3-part project. So this is the core values, what she talked about, Priyanka. And this is the whole project. So this is our trash can solution.
Mm-hmm.
And then over there is the robot portion of the whole thing. So
Is the robotic season over?
Yes.
So, are any of you going on to the STEM program next year for high school?
Well, some of us applied as 8th graders. The results are
Gotcha.
like to come next month, but we're keeping our fingers crossed to see if we can make it.
Good, good.
Any other comments?
I appreciate what you're doing for the environment. I actually work for a company. We design and engineer and install landfills. And I'm just saying.
Maybe you can partner with us.
But we also do a lot of, well, if you want to, you are welcome to learn about the dynamics of engineering and the permitting that goes on, but we also do a lot in sustainability. And so a lot of the things you talked about are really basics in sustainability and greenhouse gas carbon footprint. So I would be happy at some point, if you have another meeting, I'd be happy to come in and bore you to death for 30 minutes. Exactly what that means out into the world where these things are being applied.
You wouldn't bore us. You would just like help us improve our solution.
Well, I
That'd be a
appreciate
great
that.
help.
You haven't heard me speak. Ask Mr. Rafe. So you're, but I applaud you for that. That's terrific.
Thank you very much. And we would like to thank all of you for having us today. It was a great opportunity. Usually not a whole lot of kids from Olentangy get to come and speak in front of you guys, right?
Right.
So the entire team, we all would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences and what we learned throughout and everything.
Just a closing comment. We're going to hear momentarily from Mr. Fetty about some true academic excellence in our district. This is a perfect blend of academic excellence, and as we've said on more than one occasion, the enormous opportunities that are afforded Olentangy schools. And I enjoyed your comments about the socialization and having fun doing it. So what a great combination. So congratulations.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give them a moment here. And you're welcome
Oh,
to
and
stay.
by the way, that's our mascot.
Silly goose.
For the board president's report, I just have one item, a very important one, however. The Olentangy Education Foundation's Community Night, their 8th annual Community Night, is on March 12th at 7:30 p.m., and it will be held like the last couple of years at the shops at Worthington Place. That used to be called Worthington Square, if you're not familiar. Since 2001, I think this is important to mention, the OEF has raised and expended $600,000 for student scholarships and grant for teachers bringing forth creative and innovative programs that the district would not be able to fund otherwise. So a great event. It's one of two major fundraisers that the OEF conducts. As before, there'll be great entertainment this year. It's the McCartney Project, an excellent group. There'll be the usual silent auction, casino games, and the ever-popular purse bingo. And this year, a very special feature. The 5 board members, individually and personally, are sponsoring and are going to host one of the blackjack tables. So we'll be there through the course of the evening, and we would invite you all to stop by and win a few raffle tickets at the blackjack table.
Entertainment purposes only, Mr.
For entertainment purposes only. No, they go right to winning prizes. No cash. No cash. And Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. What am I pressing here? Square. Is it working? Good evening and thank you. It's too bad, Mr. King, that we have to follow such a great presentation as those students from Shanahan. I always say you like to follow it when it's not such a good thing and be uplifting, but those kids are amazing. My superintendent's report tonight is filled with mostly good things, and it's a long list of good things. We had, starting off with 11 National Merit finalists, previously reported to you, students who were semifinalists. These are the 11 students that moved on in the National Merit Scholarship Program. So that's a huge accomplishment. As you were aware, that's the top 0.5% of the students who take the PSAT as juniors, become National Merit semifinalists, and then move on in the scholarship competition if they maintain their GPA and complete the rest of the process. So that's a great accomplishment for those students. We had on February 4th our national NCAA Division I signing day. So there are athletes in our districts who have signed Division I scholarships throughout the country. Again, it's just another culminating experience, a tremendous accomplishment for those student athletes. Had a couple good things happen to a few of our staff members recently. Kathy Swain Abrams at Orange High School was named the Educational Theater Association's Drama Director of the Year, and Mr. Zarilli was named the Music Educator of the Year by the Columbus Symphony. So those are tremendous accomplishments for those outstanding educators. Athletically, we had Anthony Kalo was named the OCC Capital Conference Coach of the Year, and our Olentangy High School girls basketball coach John Fiesel was named the Central District Division I girls basketball coach of the year. The Lady Braves did move on in the district tournament last night with a big win. So that was for the 6th time in 7 years they'll be playing in the district finals. So that's a wonderful accomplishment. We had kids all over the district participating in water collection drive for Flint, Michigan. Again, every time, it doesn't happen, no matter what happens anywhere throughout the world. It just seems like we have kids stepping up, doing amazing things. So, this is just another example of that. But they filled an entire charter bus with donated water bottles for Flint, the city of Flint. Coming up on with the discussion items, Chuck Orth is here from Roman Allen Hughes to talk about a proposed drainage easement that's going to be of benefit to us that you'll be hearing about. Rob Sexton and Jessica Fields will be updating you on our district digital conversion, so I'm very anxious for you to hear about their progress in that area. And Mr. Fetty and Jeanette Kenny will be giving you an update on the state report card data that's been released here recently. I want to take a moment to clarify, there was an article that got published today on the This Week Community News that I was misquoted. Actually, I was speaking with a reporter, what I thought was offline, and I was quoted in this article. And the article really is about, says the title of it says, District Question Poor Marks on State Report Card. And there are a lot of districts that are going to question poor marks on the state report card. And because in the article it says, as with the first half of the report card, which came out in January, many Central Ohio districts don't seem to be placing too much stock in this data. And the quote for me is that the data is old and we can't do anything to impact programs at this point, and everybody's got a built-in excuse. My reference was to people whose data is poor. And in that, what I thought was a private conversation with this reporter, who I've since called and let know that I'm not happy with this article, people who have poor data have an excuse. Well, that's not the fact here, because our data is excellent, again. And to put it in context, I shared with the staff, I sent an email to the staff congratulating them on the performance on the state test. And what I said to them was, the purpose of my email to you today is to offer congratulations on a job well done. A lot of districts are going to downplay these results by saying that these were new tests, or that the tests are changing again, or that the data is released too late to be meaningful. Well, I think those people are just making excuses for their scores. We knew these tests were coming and that they would indeed be more rigorous. We asked our staff to accept the challenge of raising the rigor of their classroom experience, and you most certainly met that challenge. I know that the challenge to teach new standards with new assessments was a difficult road to travel, and while it was a rocky road at times, the results we are enjoying today are the evidence that it was a road worth traveling. So I couldn't be more proud of our students and staff and the curriculum team and Jack and his group for the work they've done for the past 3 to 5 years to prepare for today. So we are going to celebrate these results because they're outstanding. Couple other agenda items. The owner's rep services pending the passage of the bond issue. You're well versed on what's going on with Construction Analysis LLC. That person will be overseeing our construction project, working with our architect and our construction manager at risk here in the future. You have 8 buses to approve the purchase of, which is normal business for us at this time of the year as we continually replenish our bus fleet. And then there are a few easements for your consideration. So again, those are all, they've been provided all the information necessary for that. A couple other important dates coming up. We are having our Business Advisory Council meeting tomorrow morning. Actually, it's a joint meeting with the Delaware Partnership Group. Some other Delaware Township, Delaware County leaders will be in attendance at that. I want to make sure I make special note of the Parent Programs Team Public Forum coming up, Tyler's Light on March 2nd at Olentangy High School. I will strongly encourage all parents in our district to attend that. Tyler was a phenomenal high school student athlete who died of a drug overdose. It's a story every parent should hear. And then I'm going to highlight the fact that our next Board of Education meeting is on March 10th. We had moved that date from March 17th back to March 10th, so that's up there as an important date. And then, as Mr. King said, OEF Spirit of Olentangy Community Night on March 12th, which is just been a phenomenal event year after year. So I will say, because I don't want to steal Mr. Fetty's thunder and all the things, I want to highlight, I should have said this when I talked before about and it goes kind of hand in hand with what Mr. King talked about with the Shanahan Robotics team. I got an email today from a parent, said she thought I'd like to see good news in your email, because Mr. Fetty's going to talk a lot about all of our academic achievement and all the state tests. This was from a parent of one of our students in a preschool specialized learning center. Child is autistic and is a child with autism and has very significant learning needs. So we'll probably never take a state test, quite honestly. But she said today, I got the most amazing phone call and email from Giada's teacher today. The email made me smile, laugh, cry, and I was filled with joy. I keep telling everyone that it's in there. It's just up to Giada to show us. Today at school, Giada's class was finger painting. The teachers were observing the whole table moving around from kid to kid. They started with red paint. When their teacher was about to add blue paint to the table, she saw the word red written in Giada's paint. The teacher asked the aides if they wrote it, and they all denied it. So she added blue paint and watched. They all watched as Giada, unprompted, not coached, wrote the word blue in her paint. She's never spelled the word before and has never written anything. Yet the word was written and spelled correctly. That's when her teacher grabbed her camera. As Giada mixed her red and blue paint, she saw it made a new color and wrote the word purple in her paint, again spelled correctly. She also did green. She amazes us every single day. That's really what facilitating maximum learning is all about. So for some kids, it's advanced or accelerated on a state test. For some of our kids, it's about writing a word correctly for the first time. And for a parent who never thought their child would write a word ever, that's amazing. So, thank you. Any questions?
That's a great way to conclude a report. Mr. Kern, you have the treasurer's report for us, sir?
Wow, how do I top all this? I'm gonna fall asleep
Great
here pretty soon
numbers.
here, so. Just tonight's agenda, just to go over a few things. It's the usual approving financials, approving minutes, and approving donations to the district. One thing that's not common, but we have to do it once a year, it's a statutorial thing, is pass the rates as certified by the Delaware County Auditor. I just wanted to comment on the financials real quick and some of the donations. At this point in the year, I don't know if anyone paid attention or noticed, we are trending slightly below on revenues, and that's in the real estate taxes. That's just a timing issue. We expect final settlement should be next week sometime, so hopefully we will be able to tell where we're at this point in the year with real estate collections. So we're trending at this point below estimates on expenditures, so that's a good thing. As I said, we'll continue to monitor that, and as we prepare for our spring update for the 5-year forecast here in May. So this evening there's quite a few donations. One of the biggest ones is the Olentangy Braves Little League. Donated about $23,700 to the Glen Oak Elementary baseball field. And looking through that, a lot of that was fencing around the area, some permanent fencing, and some dugout work was done for that field. But there's many others, 8 other ones this evening, many of it from our PTOs to our buildings for various programs that I'd like to support throughout the district. So we're always very appreciative of those. So I'll entertain any questions you may have.
in the interest of not having to compete, we just ought to refer again to the fact that you got the Excellence in Audit Award, right?
Well, thank you, thank you. That's something we strive for every year, and we continue doing that every year, and it's a thanks to all our staff and people throughout the building that help.
Do we have any comments for general participation?
Yes, we do have one this evening. I apologize if I butcher this a little bit, but Arian and Ken Casey.
You didn't butcher it, by the way. It was perfect. And had you butchered it, it would have been fine as well.
And if you would, please give them the...
Yeah, if you don't mind, state your names and address, and we typically have a 5-minute limit, but if you go beyond that, it's up to the board president who wants to extend that.
Sure. Arian Sheber Casey and Ken Casey. Our address is 5439 Sandy Drive in Lewis Center, Ohio. Okay. Go ahead.
They're on.
Yeah. So we're here tonight just to give some information about a current program that we've established in some Olentangy elementary schools. Our goal is always to gain support through awareness and any other opportunities that we can really engage our community in. So about 3 years ago, our son was a kindergartner at Arrowhead Elementary, and that is our school that our children both now attend. And at that time, we identified a child in his class who clearly had food insecurity issues, and he was a 5-year-old child. For us, that was a heartbreaking issue. We are both healthcare professionals, so we see that part of it in a professional setting. But in a personal setting to a child who is 5 years old, it was absolutely devastating to us. So at that point in time, we determined that we needed to have some sort of resolution, that there has to be something that we can do. And it's come to fruition now after about 2 years. We have aligned ourselves with a program called Blessings in a Backpack, which is a national nonprofit. It's a 501c3, so not a religious or political affiliation. It is an absolute food affiliation. And in that, what we do is we raise money. Every dollar we raise goes absolutely into the kitty for food for children. $80 to $100 will feed a child every weekend for the entire school year. So what we do is we're program sponsors for a school. So we sign a contract and we say, we will make sure that this school is taken care of for 3 years. And what that means is we'll raise all the money for it. We'll create the infrastructure so the food can be dispersed in a manner which is compassionate to the child. So we understand that as well. So what we have done then is we reached out to the school and we work very closely. There's 2 schools now that we're engaged in, Arrowhead as well as Oak Creek Elementary, because we're really good fundraisers. So, and that's our goal. That's our goal. We reached out to the school counselors, and what you do is we have an idea who is on the free and reduced lunch list. There's the number, right? And it's de-identified data as it should be. But what we do is we send a letter home to every child in the school, and we say, this is a program that we have to offer if you have issues with food insecurity. If you want to benefit from this program, you can send this form back to the guidance counselor, you can call the guidance counselor, you can email them. We don't know who we're supporting. We just know it's occurring. We're currently supporting 55 children in Olentangy. It's at elementary schools, both Arrowhead and Oak Creek. We have additional funding. Our concern is always you have to run faster than the lion's chasing you. So we don't ever want to have a child that needs funded that we can't fund. And to that end, we have done a multitude of events. While we also want to feed the children, we want to help other children understand what it means to be citizens in the community. So we have, in Arrowhead, we've noticed, we do have a bit of a dichotomy where there's children that clearly don't have issues with food, home, shelter, any of those insecurities, and there are clearly children that are. And so what we want to do is, for the children that have those issues, we want to help cover them. And for the children that don't, we want to teach them what it means to be an active member of the community. And if we can get them when they're in elementary school, it's going to continue through their life. That's our hope and that's our goal. So Blessings in a Backpack is a national program. And the reason that some people don't know it's in some local schools around here is because there's private benefactors that support a great deal of them. So they don't need to raise the information alert as to the program's existence. We do secondarily because we write grants to fund the program. So we have grant cycles that come up and we speak at events. We have utilized Ohio Health in the physicals. When they come to Ohio Health for the Olentangy physicals, they see about 400 kids they roll through there. We're enrolled in some programs for rewards, and we just hand out information. We don't ask for money. But we say, this is the information. If you'd like to be a part or you'd like to have some support, please let us know. We've been present. Again, I use leverage anywhere I can, so we're in that team together. We've been present at football games, and we hand out information. Service Club's been part of that as well. And we include children in PAC events. So what Blessings can do for you is sets up somewhat of the infrastructure that you can go to Meijer, pick up the food. It's in boxes, break it all down, pack it up, and then take it to the school. So we're engaging children, Girl Scout troops we've had come over and participate in that. And Service Club, I think, is, we have that discussion as well. Olentangy Service Club, they're interested as well. So what our goal is really just to find out if there's any other ideas for support that anyone would have that we could maybe pursue. Our goal is to cover every child in Olentangy, not just 2 schools.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate you bringing this to us, because I had no idea that in 2 schools there would be 55 students who would need those services. My daughter teaches in Las Vegas, and about 50% of the students in her entire school participate out of 740 kids in the school. So I expect it there. I don't expect it here. So what a wonderful program to do. But I'm thinking our athletic teams could get involved in this. You know, I think that would be.
And aren't we approving a new club for Liberty for feeding or collecting food?
And this could be one of the
service work that
yes.
they do.
And Interact Club at Orange is
Yeah.
a service club as well. My son belongs to that at Orange High School, so that's a place we can get you connected.
Okay.
I mean, are you looking, is part of it your outreach to get information into people's hands at public events? Is that a helpful
I think
process?
it's absolutely
Or
helpful as well.
distribution of food or.
It's like, so the average person here sitting on the board, what can we do individually to help you as part of that mission? Is it a donation? Is it a purchase? Where do you see us fitting in?
Food collection?
You know, the purchases, that part gets a little bit tricky when you think that we try to standardize a menu for 55 children. So you don't want to have some children that have macaroni and some have that ravioli, and then you get into so we will absolutely want to make something standardized. And as our program grows, I think it's harder to engage in that food collection process.
That's fair.
But unless there is some sort of opportunity that we can have a team approach as to what would be standardized and how that could be accomplished. I think a lot of the hard work that we go through is packing. So a lot of nights are spent around our kitchen table with my husband and myself packing little Meijer bags so that they can discreetly be put into the child's backpack so that when they're out of the room, so that the other students are not aware that they're receiving that service. So there are some schools where the majority of the children are absolutely on that program, and they actually get backpacks because you don't need to de-identify the child. It's commonplace. All the children are receiving it. In our schools, that's not the case, and we don't want to create any stigma. We actually want to create, compassion among the others. So I think that a lot of it is the brunt force of the work, as well as just getting the message out to additional children as well. Once they hear it, they're engaged. It's just getting that information. And quite frankly, whenever I have a program I want to tell you about, that's always sometimes a red flag because they feel like you're asking me to get my wallet out, and that's absolutely not what we're trying to do. If you want to give us money, I'm not going to say no. So to date, we've raised $19,000, and that's in a year. So clearly I don't say no to money. But
If I could just interject, it'd be real, as I talked to your partner when she called the first time at the last meeting, that I did have my $100 check ready to deliver, but they didn't show, so I took it home, so I'll have it.
Right.
we'll find where you.
But Mr. Wright and I'll be happy to work with you to see how we can get students mobilized, because our kids, as I said, with the water bottle collection in the superintendent's report, it's just that simple. And Mr. Meyer and Mr. Wright are sitting there saying is that you just put it in the hands of the high school kids and it'll all be taken care of for you.
They all
You
need
won't be
service
back.
hours.
Yeah.
They all want. I don't say they don't necessarily. They want
them.
work.
They want those
I mean, they
hours.
want. I mean, that's just what they want.
You know what? Even if they need it and they don't want it, I think oftentimes we've had some individuals that come in that felt obligated, and then they left and understood the message. And especially when you put it, they see what that buys them. as opposed to what they would go out and buy for lunch
And
because
the
they're
same
hungry.
thing, just like when we try to encourage them to be blood donors, the Red Cross will say, if you can get a student in high school to donate blood 3 times, they become a donor for life. If you can get them to be that person who is involved in this type of endeavor, they'll be that type of person involved for life. So, just touch base with me.
Yes, I think we can get you bodies for
Bodies
putting
and
bags
fundraising.
together. Yeah.
And we already, just as one of our, we've identified with our United Way donations as a district, as Blessings in a Backpack is one way people can directly donate to. They can divert their United Way donations to that program.
So the one thing I would add to that is Blessings in a Backpack, since it is a national nonprofit. When you do that, you have to identify specifically Arrowhead Elementary, or it goes into the general kitty.
We can fix that.
You can do that.
I asked, yeah. So if there's any donations that have been made that you would like me to follow up on, I'd be happy to do so. I've done that previously as well.
And website where we can learn more, where you have some
Sure,
information.
there's a blessingsinAbackpack.org. And on that website as well, there's opportunity for credit card donation. And again, if that were to occur, it would need to be earmarked again for Arrowhead Elementary. And correct, and we are also enrolled in the Community Rewards Program from Kroger, and I understand that a multitude of programs through Olentangy are, and our goal by no means is to compete with anything in Olentangy or detract from another fund. And when we do speak about that, we always say, if you're already enrolled, great. If you don't have, and you haven't found a place to land yet, here's an opportunity, let's give you some information. So it's never a hard sell. It's always just information on our end.
That's great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our discussion items, our first one is, as mentioned, information on the drainage easement. So, Mr. Berry, if you would please, and Mr. Orth.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
I am Charles Orth, and Jay Berry is here. And I'm going to pass these out that way to make it a little easier for people.
Thanks.
There's 3 maps here and 3 drawings.
Thank you, sir.
I work for Vince Romanelli. I'm a registered landscape architect, and Jay Berry has been our engineer with CT Consultants on this project. And Vince had purchased the property next to Cheshire School about 2 years ago. When I got involved, the street that entered here was a very curvy street, and to me was not a well-designed street, which has caused some problems in regards to working adjacent to your property. And what we're discussing here is when this road comes in, if you see this one area here where it says 2C on your first map, and then an area down here, and then there's a little triangle on the future Pyatt Road. Those 3 areas, and if you look at your second map, which really highlights those 3 areas, the 2 yellowish colored are currently owned by Olentangy Schools. The other green area where the Pyatt Road is owned by Romanelli and Hughes. We are doing,
Yes.
The yellows are owned by Romanelli and Hughes.
Right,
The red
correct.
is owned by the
Oh.
school district.
correct, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And when we start this engineering process, the county does not allow what is called, which would be the yellow areas, devil strips. They do not like to have strips of land between right-of-way and other people's property owners, so you don't have access to that right-of-way. So that creates this whole process of looking at how do we give now you land or somebody give another person a piece of ground and get that whole process started, so you are not now considered landlocked or not have access to that. So that started that whole process with Chris Bosman at the county engineer. Well, during that whole process of writing those legals then, Mr. Gordon said that we need to proceed with you guys under, I believe, one of the state statutes.
Yep.
That we need an appraisal done. And on page 3 is really the summary of the appraisal in which we, Romanelli and Hughes, is providing almost 1 acre to you and 1/10 of an acre back to Romanelli and Hughes. So the value difference is in your benefit. But again, ours is not from a value standpoint, is how do we get this project going? How do we get it built? How do we get over to Pyatt Road? Also, other cooperations in terms of doing that is in discussions that the schools have had with the county and Delco Water. We're putting in a 12-inch water line to get over to Pyatt to eventually service properties to the north and to the south. So it's a total cooperation thing. Sheet 3 shows, on your map, shows where those drainage utility easements are for the county, for us, and for Delco Water. And we have prepared all the legal documents that have been reviewed by your attorney and Mr. Gordon. So they are ready, and I have the originals to give to Mr. Meyer this evening, so they will be there, so if they need to be re-looked at before your actual approval on March the 10th, or if any questions come up between now and March the 10th with the information that we've given you, we can certainly get those back to you. But it's a total cooperation between everybody, and we appreciate you guys' response and your team getting back with us, and hopefully we can get this thing started up here in the spring and get going. Because as soon as you make your decisions and Vince signs his paperwork for all the transfers, the county is ready to sign engineering, and we're on our way. Because we're to that point. We're just cleaning up all the details.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, so this is for a new housing development, and then, so like the areas that you need would be beneficial for us as well, though, too, correct?
Yes, well, and I think it was Mr. Myers we were talking about. It gives you access here for the future
Yeah.
road to coming into the end where your baseball
Absolutely,
fields are.
right.
Gives you access there. And that's really what you're getting rid of when you get the Devil Strip. You have any access here. We're also putting in a concrete access up here where if you know the school very well, there's where the 2 detention basins are. There was a future access point. We are bringing that concrete apron back over to your property line so you can make that connection. So maybe you at some point in time could abandon the one on
Right.
Gardner Road and come out on the main road where the rest of the traffic will be. So we're putting that in also.
And that's really the key to it, the logic of
Yeah.
proper land utilization
Yes.
and flexibility.
And we've had discussions with Jeff and through using Jay as to where do we want to, and it hasn't really been decided, how far do we want to bring the sidewalk to connect to this sidewalk here where the turnaround is? Where do you want the children to cross that may be walking to school? They're not going to cross clear out of Gregory Road.
Right.
We need to determine, do we want to keep them maybe away from the bus traffic and put it down here? Those are where we need your help when we get ready to finalize the total length of that sidewalk, but we're here to do that.
Oh, so this would be a walkable
Yeah.
subdivision.
We have 60 lots,
Nice.
or 65 lots in this current project here.
Just one question. I mean,
Yeah.
it's less than an acre of additional, I'm going to assume that puts no extra strain on the stormwater basin.
No, ours is all controlled, all of that, the
Okay.
storm in terms of easement comes into our detention basins,
Okay.
which are in this area.
On this, that's on the other end of the property. Okay, I just wanted to make
We've
sure.
got to get the water there, and anything that's on this roadway, we've got to
Yeah.
get away
Okay.
from you guys and get to the detention and retention basins.
Great.
Any
Yeah.
other comments, questions?
Nope. Makes
So
sense.
you'll see this again March 10th for approval.
Yes.
Sense.
Good.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah, and I also want to follow up with the superintendent, with the young ladies that were here. You giving them the opportunity, though, just the same as us, to do public presentation. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
a great skill that our young people need.
Absolutely.
You didn't bring cookies, though.
I ate my cookie. I was like, that's my dinner.
No, sorry, we're actually not allowed to accept cookies from you. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Our next presentation, item B, again, is the digital conversion update. Mr. Sexton and Ms. Fields, please, if you would join us.
Hi.
Yeah, I didn't bring cookies either. So,
We ate them before we got here.
yeah, we got hungry, sorry.
We haven't had supper yet.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to start the discussion on the Olentangy digital conversion. We kind of affectionately deemed it evolution, not revolution. So just a gradual rollout, not something that happens, overnight, so that the staff might get riled up a little bit. So
This is down here.
So to start off, assistance from Patrick. Thank you. So when we started talking about this digital conversion, we always start off with the foundations. So the learning foundation. So as you can see, curriculum, assessment, instruction all come together for the learning. So on the outside is 21st century context. So that isn't necessarily technology, but this is kind of where we started the discussion. So as we talk about a digital conversion, some other elements get introduced. So as we look at the something called TPAC, which was, yep. So TPAC is stands for Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge. So all that means is we take the content knowledge, we take the strategies in the classroom, pedagogical side, and the technology, and we blend those together. Just like the sweet spot for the learning foundations, TPAC addresses that with that sweet spot there in the middle. So it's the great things that we're doing today in the classroom, just with a technology aspect to it. So adding that into the mix to ultimately prepare a well-rounded student. So with that, there are several target areas. First and foremost, if you don't have a solid infrastructure or foundation, all these devices and all the technology in the world really doesn't mean a whole lot. Wireless is a key piece of that, and then the picture on the left is a picture of a data center. So getting those up to speed and getting those updated is really the core of this plan. So with the infrastructure squared away, then we can start introducing additional devices, updated devices, devices that don't take 10 minutes to start up and boot, things that are up instantly, again, that impact the classroom so that it doesn't take away that valuable time that they need.
I'm really excited for this. You know, my role for the district is in the instructional technology supervisor, and when I was trying to prepare what to say to you guys, it's hard to kind of capture it all because it looks different. K, 1, 2, instruction, it looks different. 3 through 5, it looks different. 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So I think ultimately, no matter where you are, teachers are trying to get to that personalized learning experience for the student. You can go to the next slide, please. I thought he was controlling that. What I like about this image, though, is with instruction, every student has the opportunity to really experience the skills in different modalities. And when we leverage technology, that differentiation and that student-centered environment is created more efficiently. They have access anywhere from any device at any time. So the infrastructure that Rob was talking about and the access to the device really this year is where we've had enough devices that I could do some training on blended learning and how do you utilize that model to promote this student-centered experience. So on the next slide, I think it's a really great image. It's a device and it's a notebook. It's blended. I always tell teachers we take the best of the past with the best of the future, and that's the experience we want for our students. There's the 21st century skills, there's college and career readiness, there's the engagement factor and the motivation. But again, if we go to the next slide, we cannot forget that, sorry, that was the TPAC. Can you go more? The past slide, the TPAC slide, we can't forget that the content knowledge and the strategies in the classroom have to blend with technology. So if you go to the next one of our goals too is a data dashboard, and Rob's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the data dashboard has been one of the key tools that, as I do my travels around in the buildings, it's one of the things that the teachers really been asking for. And so what a data dashboard is to a teacher is having that data right there at their fingertips to see how did this student do in the past? How are they doing now? What resources at their fingertips can they go and assign to these students based on the data that it is? Maybe it's an enhancement, maybe it's remediation. Let the data, tell the story, and the teachers gain a level of efficiency, with this, again, data at their fingertips.
So right now, I'm really working with different groups of teachers of what this means for them. So I'm trying to respect who they are as a teacher and their teaching strategies, respect the students that they're working with, where they are in their technical skills, and trying to get them to make steps forward into this 21st century learning environment. And there's such great things going on in the district. I step into classrooms every day, and I'm just amazed about the integration of technology and how they are really redefining the learning experience for the student. So, the professional development does revolve around the idea of utilizing blended learning, and with that comes understanding when to plug in, when to unplug, when to use a mixture of the two. Not only are the teachers receiving professional development, but I'm also working with the administrators. I want them to be instructional leaders in their building. I want them to be able to understand this change and to be able to support their staff in this change or this evolution. I ask teachers, I say, I think back 10 years. So think back 10 years, 2006. Think about something in 2006 that you never would have thought would exist in 2016. Because the students that you have in 10 years, that's the reality. So they will list things like Netflix or Uber or, Google Docs, and being able to collaborate digitally in word process. Systems like that. I think it's an exciting time. I think it's a phenomenal time. I'm glad to be partnered with Rob in building this infrastructure and the accessibility. And for me, I think it's most rewarding when you see the student achievement, you see the engagement, and you see that student developing those independent skills because of the student-centered environment. It's a really powerful thing to witness in a classroom.
Yeah, so this is just TPAC again, kind of playing again on that professional development, and this is going to be part of that target. PD is around this. So no new initiative or program is ever successful without engaging, without parent engagement. So from a, if I take my tech director hat off for a second, put my parent hat on, it's with my two children, elementary and middle school, it's, again, I'm a little biased because it was something that I helped implement, but to see them have the access that they have today, going from 2 apps in my LSD to over 20, and those 20 are even targeted at their grade level. So it's not an elementary student getting a middle school thing, and they're using it every day. They use it seamless, and at least in my house, they have access to a variety of different devices, and it doesn't matter what device they go to already. They can pick up an iPad, they're good. They can pick up a Chromebook, they're good. They can pick up a Windows laptop, they're good. They can pick up a MacBook, they're good. So that's nice to see from a parent side, and then it's also rewarding from professionally. So again, little piece on the parent perspective, and then leads to questions.
Any questions?
Yes, I want to tie it into the message that we just heard about 55 students in 2 schools needing to have food sent home. Well, what about those students who don't have access to electronic devices at home? Because I know that a lot of kids now, when they're going home, the teachers are sending them home with with homework, that they have to have, a device to use. So what do we do?
Yeah, in many cases, device and internet.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So it's the double.
And I
whammy.
know I'm at the library a lot, and I see a lot of our students over there. So I don't know if they're accessing the internet at the Orange Township Library, because they seem to be meeting over there in student groups a lot. So that could be one reason. But devices and internet, I don't know what we do.
Yeah, the libraries definitely help. And as we increase devices throughout the district, that's going to be something that's going to be more available.
And some of the things, sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
We're working on like this blended learning instructional, blended blocks is what we're calling them in Schoology. And so we're really trying to work with teachers of what can you do with the student when you have them in the class. Because we do have a Chromebook cart, for example, at the elementary level, they have access to 25 per grade level. And there's quite a bit at the middle school level. And then we see more BYOD as well as a mixture of district-wide provided. But what we're trying to do is have the teacher using these blended instructional models, what can you do with the child when you have them? I still think we need to consider the home experience and partnering with the libraries. We talked a little bit about if, we gave suggested, devices and had them at different categories of price. Can we work with families on purchasing devices? Another issue we have is if there's multiple students in a home, they're fighting with their siblings to get to the device. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and we're all fighting over our devices at home. So,
And we're building all that into the whole plan long term. We talked about not becoming a one-to-one district, because we'll never be able to provide 19,000 devices for 19,000 or as we continue to grow, and then replace them when the technology becomes obsolete. So, it's about embedding this type of instruction and this type of learning into our culture, so that ultimately we do become more bring your own device in the later grades. But, so much of it is about, the power of it is really creating that personalized learning environment for our teachers and for our students, that they're able to design instruction, and there's just so much now, so many powerful technology tools that can help leverage learning for us. And it's going to be a gradual build-up. Part of our permanent improvement levy is, designated towards these funds, or we have a plan in place for how we're going to fund this initiative. So again, I like the phrase evolution, instead of revolution. It is so important to build these types of skills for our students moving forward. I taught mathematics and technology way back in the day, and I remember in the early 90s fighting with people over whether you were a Mac school, an Apple school, or whether you're a Windows school. And the two sides shall never meet.
Right.
Well, you see, that has gone another way, because they get along pretty well now. Because it's about teaching kids the skills, so whether it's collaborating digitally, or whatever it might be. So I wanted to give you a brief update of where we were with that so far, because that was one of the things I kind of presented as we started this whole journey together. So thank you.
thank you guys.
Thank you. Good report. And item C under discussion items will be an academic update. If you would join us, please.
Good evening. I'm actually going to be turning this presentation over to Jeanette and Vince here. I presented to you at the last board meeting about the first release of the report card. We let you know that today was going to be the state release of the remainder of the data, so Jeanette has spent the day crunching the numbers and put together a pretty comprehensive presentation for you. And then the other thing I had talked about at the last meeting was our efforts to develop every kid as college and career ready, and personalized learning, kind of building on the digital conversion conversation. And Vince is going to talk to you about that Global Scholars Diploma that I mentioned at the last meeting, and the pilot that we're doing there. And actually, it's almost like we plan some of these things. But with what the students earlier in the Shanahan presentation talked about, and even what Mark shared about the students delivering water up to Flint, Michigan, the Global Scholars Program is designed to engage all of those interests, those social conscious interests of students, and develop a global perspective. So Vince will be sharing that for us too, even though his name didn't make it into the superintendent slide. This is Vince DiTilio. I made him stay anyway. So before I turn it over to Jeanette, though, I do want to share with you that, a message I shared with the curriculum department and the pupil services department. We did get some good data today. I want to reiterate what I said to you and echo what Mark said earlier, but what I said to you at the last meeting was that there are some questions about the validity of the data and the timing of the data, and it's certainly become a political football. But in Olentangy, and this was before we got the data, we told you that we're going to accept it for what it is. It's our data. We're going to use it to the best of our ability. It would have been a lot more useful a few months ago, but it's still our data, and it's one piece of the puzzle for us. We now can complete publishing our annual report, which ideally we would have had out to you back in October. But the state data is one piece of that annual report, and that annual report is a way for us to look at all of our performance from a very holistic perspective. So we do certainly own the data. It was a shift in a type of assessment that Mark was right, we began preparing for 5 years ago. And I do think that there is a sense of a reward on that our teachers earned here, because it was a long, hard task. I shared with the message earlier to the curriculum department and people services department that the past 5 years have probably been the hardest 5 years in history to be a teacher, excluding any time of like a one-room schoolhouse and bear attacks. This has been the roughest tenure for being a teacher, especially in Ohio. It's been a political football. It's been, there's been a lot thrown at us, new assessments, new standards, new evaluation system. Our teachers stayed positive. They stayed focused on student learning, which is the center of those Olentangy foundations that Rob mentioned. And we remain committed to professional growth, to the belief that we can all get better each day. So that's not going to change for us here. So Jeanette will talk to you about the state report card now, and then we'll ask Vince to share with you that Global Scholars Diploma, which is a very exciting opportunity for our high school students.
Well, good evening. I feel privileged that I get to share a lot of the good news that we got today. We'll start by reviewing some of the data that we received during the first round of report cards, and then get into the data that was actually just released publicly today at about 11:15, 11:30 this morning. So this is a slide that Jack shared at the last board meeting or earlier in January. So part one, again, this was the first year that they released it in two separate parts because of the way that the data was coming back. And in that first part, we'll talk about the K-3 literacy measure, the prepared for success measure, and then the graduation rate. So that was the first part of the report card. And then to just release this morning were the other three major components of the report card, which was the achievement measure, which includes two separate pieces, one indicators met and then performance index. That's probably the most well-known part of the report card is the achievement measure, growth and progress, and then gap closing. So we'll go through each of these kind of specifically. This slide gives you an overall view of the grades that we received on each of these measures, and it compares it to the last year as well. It's somewhat challenging to directly compare it to past years because we had so many changes with new assessments, more rigorous assessments, so we expected to see a dip in some of our data. But like we said, the news that we got back, and when we look at kind of where we fared in comparison, we're very pleased with that. So to start, the K-3 literacy measure, so this is a measure that impacts the district and then our elementary schools, and it's meant to measure how well schools and districts are helping students who aren't reading at grade level. So the way that it's calculated is we give a reading diagnostic to all students in grades K through 3, and it looks at students who were not on track in kindergarten. How many of those students moved to on track in first grade? Our students who were off track in first grade, how many moved to on track in second grade to third grade, and then how many of our third graders who were not on track became proficient at the end of the year on the state test. As a district this year, we did receive a letter grade, and we received a letter grade of a C. In order to receive a grade, you have to have at least 5% of your kindergartners identified as not on track. So you'll see that several districts and several school buildings don't actually even receive a grade for this measure because they didn't have 5% of their kindergartners identified as not on track. The way that the grade works is you get a percentage, and the bottom percent of the C range is the state average. Our percentage of students moving to on track was about 10% above the state average, still within that C range, but about 10% above. We don't really believe that a letter grade of C represents the success that we have with our K-3 students in literacy, because if the ultimate goal is that our students are reading at grade level by the end of third grade, we look at how many students have we had to retain due to the third grade reading guarantee. And for 2 years in a row now, we've not had to retain any students because of third grade reading guarantee. So it's an interesting measure. It's an interesting measure also because districts choose the diagnostic that they give, and they choose what benchmark they set for students who are not on track and on track. So we compare ourselves across the state, but that measure is different in every district. The Prepared for Success measure, again, that is going to be reported for at the district level as well as at the high schools. And it's going to give a picture and measures how ready students are to be successful in college or careers. It's not yet a graded component. So you'll see that on the state report card this year. It'll just list the percentages of students who achieved in these different areas. So the component includes the things that are listed up there. It's going to look at ACT participation and then how many students were remediation free, SAT, percentage of our students who earn an honors diploma, anyone who earned industry credentials, AP participation, dual enrollment, and then IB, which we don't currently have an IB program. ODE is still determining what that grade or how it's going to be calculated, but it is going to be a graded measure next school year. We're seeing a large increase in our dual enrollment credits with College Credit Plus. It's going to take a couple of years for us to see that on the state report card because we're kind of at a 1-year lag. So the Prepared for Success measure that was reported on this year's report card is for the graduates of 2014. They need that time to get that data.
So for the dual enrollment, it would be the credits achieved by those students? Is that what they're going to collect, or students taking the class?
They're looking at percent of students who are earning at least
those
3 college credits.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which cost us.
Right.
We pay, well, I mean, we pay for.
So in some regards, that could be considered an unfunded mandate. because they
Exactly,
expect this-
yes, yes, because we have to,
Yes.
in order to get a high enough score, we have to have enough kids taking college credits that the school district is paying for.
Yeah, another interesting measure. And then the third component that was released in the first round of report card was just the graduation rate. Again, measures how many students graduate either within 4 years or 5 years. So the 4-year graduation rate as a district was a 98.3%. Again, that's the graduates of the class of 2014, which earned us an A. And then the 5-year graduation rate, which would be the class of 2013, was 98.4%, which was also an A. So those measures were pretty straightforward. Again, the second round of data that was released is kind of the more common things that we're used to looking at that incorporates our testing data, our state testing data. So for the achievement measure, the achievement component contains 2 different things. One is indicators met, and then the second is performance index. So for our indicators met, we received an A as a district. There are up to 35 possible indicators for the Ohio State test, plus 1 indicator, which is our gifted indicator. As a district, we had 32 indicators that came from our Ohio State test, which the state just sets kind of a minimum proficiency level that we have to meet, and we met all 32 of those indicators. And then our 33rd indicator was the gifted indicator, which we did not meet this year. The gifted indicator is new. It's new to be included into this indicators met measure. And it's a little convoluted. It's interesting how it's calculated. It's composed of 3 separate things. One is looking at gifted growth. So you have to earn at least a C for gifted growth. We as a district earned an A, so we met that part of that indicator. The second part is a gifted performance index. So they recalculate the performance index just using students who are identified as gifted in those subject areas. You needed to earn a 115 performance index for your gifted students. We were at a 114.5. So we did not meet that part. And then the third part of the gifted indicator is gifted input points. So you earn a certain number of points for identifying students, and then a certain number of points for what percent of those identified students you're serving. And it's looking at, that holistically. It's looking at economically disadvantaged. It's looking at a lot of different things. So we actually met the gifted input points this year, but that's going to continue to raise over the next few years.
Which is why we need to invest in
technology to
yes,
to
and
address those kids.
And gifted services, which, again, it's not mandated by the state that you offer gifted services, but you're being graded if you do offer those services, so. Yes, another crazy idea, but anyway.
Right, and there's 3 pieces to that one indicator, and you have to meet all 3 in order to meet that indicator. We met 2 of the 3, but it's going to show up as a not met on the report card. But again, in the overall indicators met measure, we were 32 out of 33, which is still an A.
Yeah.
And then the second part is performance index. We were a B as a district this year, so the state decided to release 2 separate performance indices. The first is the regular way that we calculate it, which includes any of our students who were untested, including our students who opted out of testing. And as a district, we are a 105.9. The modified performance index, so they only calculated using students who actually took the tests. We were a 107.5, which still was in the B range. And again, we expected to see some dip in our performance index because of the increased rigor of the state test. But what we were really excited to see today was that whereas we were 26th in the state last year, even with increased rigor in the test, we rose to 11th in the state in performance index, which is incredible. And then we're very excited to see that we were also ranked number 1 in Central Ohio and number 1 compared to all of our similar districts. So that was a huge celebration for us. Growth and progress. So whereas we look at achievement, how does a student perform on a test at that one point in time, we also look at how are our students growing. What is the growth that they've made during the school year, also known as value added. So as a district or in the state report card, we look at 4 different groups of students. We look at all students as a whole, and this measure uses reading and math for grades 4 to 8. So that's who's included. Gifted students, students with disabilities, and then students in the lowest 20%. A C is considered what we would expect to happen, and that would be a gain index of 0. So if we have a gain index of 0, that means students grew a year for a year. It's exactly what we'd want to see in our classrooms. In order to earn an A, you have to have a gain index of at least 2. For all students, we had a gain index of 61.45, which was number 1 in the state. And it was actually the next district below us was Dublin, and they were in the 30s. So we doubled the gain index for all students. For gifted students, we also earned an A. We had a gain index of 38. Again, number 1 in the state. Students with disabilities was also number 1 in the state with a gain index of 15.5. And then for our students in lowest 20%, we were 7th in the state overall with a gain index of about 10.
So what was the overall gain index, 62 point?
It was 61.45.
What was it gifted again?
Gifted was 38.03.
So we didn't meet the gifted indicator.
Right.
But we have the highest gifted growth in the state. So
Yeah.
again, it's just so difficult for us as educators to comprehend some of these numbers and some of these expectations, but for the general public it's even more. So I don't see how anybody could tell us we're not meeting the expectations for our gifted children. We have the highest growth in the state.
When we've talked a lot today, and you talk about living the mission and truly facilitating maximum learning for every student, and if the expectation is 0, meaning that students are growing the way they need to, and we're blowing that out of the water, our students are getting what they need in the classroom. Our teachers, our administrators, everyone in the organization is living that mission every day to do that for our kids and excelling at it.
The same thing goes with the performance index. So we got a B, okay, but we're the 11th in the state.
That's a B.
And that's a B.
There were only 6 districts who earned an A for performance index this year.
And I would hope.
And they're all.
And consider the size of.
I was going to say, they're all very small.
They are. And then the final measure is gap closing, also known as annual measurable objectives, or you'll hear people talk about AMOs. So it measures academic performance of subgroups to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students in reading and math, and then it also in graduation rate. So the state set a kind of a benchmark goal that there is at least for reading a 71.3% proficiency, for math 65%, and the graduation rate was an 80.5%. As a district in this measure, overall, we earned a B. We had a preliminary grade of an A, and we have, of the total possible 10 subgroups, we have 9 of those subgroups that count. You have to have at least 30 students within a subgroup in order for it to count in this measure. So we had 9 of the 10. We had all 9 subgroups meet the reading AMO, all of them meet the math AMO, and all of them meet the graduation rate. But with the way that this measure is calculated, if you're an A district, they then look at a minimum proficiency level of 70% for all of those subgroups in reading and math. And we did not meet that minimum level of 70% for IEP students in math. We were at about a 65.2%, I believe. And so since we didn't meet for that one subgroup and that one subject, we're automatically demoted to a B. So that's where that grade comes from.
But again, we have the highest special ed
Growth in the state.
In the state. So I would say, you know, holistically, we're meeting the needs of those students. They're
Right.
growing.
Agree. Any questions?
So, you know, just to interject, it was a great day for us. And I got all this information. Jeanette knows I've been bugging the heck out of her. She works, you can see just from the presentation, Jeanette was one of the best teachers I ever got to work with. So, she actually took a vacation day. I can't believe she did that at some time when this testing was coming out. The state released it the wrong time. But, so I was at the Powell Chamber of Commerce today doing a presentation on the state of the schools, and I shared with them this information. I'm sorry that I shared with them that before we shared it with you, but I was very excited about sharing this great news. And the first person I spoke to share this data was, and I said, you know, we're getting this information back. I'm going to be telling you guys about it in this presentation. And we had the highest performance index in Central Ohio, the highest performance index in our similar district group, and we have the 11th highest performance district in the state. And he says to me, wow, 11th? Thought you'd be higher. And I said, you gotta be kidding. But that is, in our world though, that is the essence of Olentangy. Again, we're really proud of everybody's effort, we're really proud of the work that we have going on. But we know it's just never good enough. That's what our people embrace, and we will always want to get better. You know, so, and that's really what we're committed to if we're going to really live the mission of the district. So, thank you for getting this all together. So,
in those comparable districts, we're the 10 districts that are ahead of us aren't even in our comparable district. So it's hard for us to even, I'm not making excuses that we shouldn't be higher, but they're just so different from Olentangy.
and
we
not
really
experiencing
can't,
the growth.
No, but then we really can't compare ourselves to the larger districts, because if we look at the larger districts, you know, there's your urbans and your southwestern city, and we don't really compare with those either. Now, our comparison group that comes out from the state, you know, Pickerington's in there, Gahanna, Dublin, Hilliard, Mason is in there, Brecksville's in there, from throughout the state, Springborough's in there. But again, I think the one that comes closest to us size-wise is Hilliard now. So, and we just blew them away. You know, so we're kind of an anomaly. We stand out on our own, really. So it was really good data. I mean, I was looking at it all morning. Very good data. And the Dispatch article that you referred to earlier, yeah, a lot of people are making excuses. A lot of districts are making excuses. But the fact of the matter is, this is the test that the state came up with. Everyone took the same tests. They're all graded on the same things, except for the third grade reading, or the reading thing that you told us, the reading measures, because everyone sets their own. But, you know, it just so happened that our people stepped up, you know, the students and the teachers. And so I don't think we have to discount that. I don't want to make excuses. No, we can't compare ourselves to last year, and we're not going to be able to compare ourselves to next year because the tests change. But the fact of the matter is, these students took the test, and the teachers prepared them to take these tests, and they did very well. And I don't think we should make excuses.
No, it's a celebration. And I'm very pleased that you sent that memo out to staff
Yeah.
to acknowledge that. I think it's very important for you to have done that. Congratulations. I think that's just incredible success, I think. From everybody.
I did call Dr. Lucas and left him a voicemail so to
Yeah,
let him
'cause-
know
yeah.
that, because my name is on this report card, but his could or shouldn't, because it
Right.
was still when he was here.
Right.
I did remind him I was in charge of academics, but I let him know that he left on a great note.
Right.
So-
Absolutely.
Yes. Anything else?
Okay.
It's great.
Again, congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Evening.
It's good to see you twice in a row. I haven't got to do that yet in my 3 years here. So first, I think just to say and just to kind of piggyback off what Jeanette had said, I mean, first of all, I'm grateful to be part of this district and such an awesome team. But I think with the presentation earlier and some of the things that have been discussed, we know there's more than test scores, and there's more than tests, and there's more than what goes on in the four walls of the classroom during that day that students are here. So today I'm going to share with you just a very little bit about a program that we're piloting right now called the Global Scholars Diploma. It's something that I sort of got tossed 3 years ago, and it just so happened that it was right in my sweet spot of what I'm interested in. I was a product of study abroad in college. I feel like it was something that really made me who I am today. So I got really interested really quick and just kept thinking, how am I going to make this happen? And it was slow, but finally this year we sort of started pushing in this direction, and I think it's something that not only I'm going to be excited about in the future, I think we're all going to start to be a little bit excited about it. So I'm going to do my best to go quickly and not blabber on about something that I'm really excited about. So Jack had put this slide in here from his last presentation, and I think it's important to remember that part of the academic CIP, that second goal to develop students as college and career ready individuals, if you read what that means from the standards, there's very specific language about developing perspective, having sort of a global context for the world. We know that the world our students are going to be entering is much different than the one we entered out of college. And I think that we need to be very cognizant that we're making sure our students are prepared for the world they're going to enter, not the world we're currently sort of functioning in. So I think it definitely aligns to that goal. The other thing I was thinking while Jeanette was talking, one of the challenges of working in a district like this, I think, is that we could easily rest on our laurels. We could easily sit back and say our curriculum is perfect, our students are getting what they need. But from a curricular standpoint, we're always asking, what other experiences can we provide students with that are going to set them apart from other districts? It's not just going to be our scores and our PI, it's going to be the experiences that our students are offered. And we started to think about this question, what does it mean to be a globally competent graduate of Olentangy local schools? And I think what it means to be competent here in Olentangy is different than what it means to be competent in Hilliard or if you're graduating from a Columbus public school. So we need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students in terms of what they need. A few things that we thought about when we started to look at that question. One was that the world today is interconnected, and we all know that. But to our students, that means a couple really important things. One is that when the world's interconnected, global issues impact them a lot. I mean, things that once we might have read about or saw in the news had no impact on us now are impacting them. But on the flip side of that is that it also gives students the opportunity to affect those issues. They have more of an avenue to advocate for those through, whether it be through blogging or through getting involved in different organizations. So that was one thing we kept in mind. And then the second thing, and I think this is really important, is that if we want to provide a world-class education, it can't just be in those four walls during those 7 hours of the school day. We know now that a world-class education is defined by the opportunity to transfer that to the outside world. And we can't leave that to chance. We have to provide opportunities for students to take what they're learning in whatever courses they're taking and use them outside of school. So I think that's a big shift in terms of where we're going as a district and in education as general. couple goals we set out with, and I worked on these with our diversity department, was that trying to say what an Olentangy graduate really needs to be able to do in terms of being competent globally. And the first one was that we wanted them to have a curiosity for understanding others. We think it's important that our students really want to get to know each other within their school and people outside of their school. And I really like that, because I think that's something that it can take to the collegiate level into the workforce. The second thing was an understanding of who they are personally and how they have to adapt to different environments. That's one thing that we know is really important as we move into college, is the ability to understand that it's not going to be like Olentangy. You need to know who you are so you can adapt. The third one is just that our students have a propensity for working constructively with others. They have to want to collaborate. It's not just the ability to do it, you have to see the value in it. You have to see the value in working with other people. And then the fourth thing we really set out to do was we wanted our students to graduate with a desire to promote awareness, equity, and empathy, and give them the skills to do that. So coming full circle back to Global Scholars, it kind of lined up perfectly with those goals. And what Global Scholars is, in a general sense, is really, it's a credential that recognizes students who demonstrate global competency above and beyond the required curriculum of Olentangy Local School District in 4 areas: investigating the world, recognizing perspectives, communicating ideas, and taking action. This program is a partnership with the Columbus Council on World Affairs, which is an organization in Columbus, the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio, the ESC, who we've worked with before, and then most importantly, the Asia Society. And most social studies teachers are aware of the Asia Society because it's sort of the leader in diversity education, cultural competency, global competency. This is actually their framework there to the right, community, self, and school. And the Columbus Council on World Affairs developed this program from their framework. So it has a lot of research behind it. They're the only council on world affairs in the United States that offers this program. And now all these other ones are starting to pop up that want to do it. I look at it as sort of an accent to our curriculum. It's not something that really is a curriculum. It's sort of an add-on that would set a student apart. And the reason I like that is because it's not particular to the humanities. You can do the Global Scholars Diploma through STEM. You can do it through the arts. It's something that encompasses what you're studying, and I'll show you how that works. The final point I think about what it is it is living the mission. When we talk about the mission of maximizing education for all our students, I think that we have to offer these different tracks, avenues, pathways for students to explore things they're interested in. The current cohort we have is 48 students. They're all freshmen. We purposely did that because, freshmen are fun. They still got that middle school, like they'll try anything kind of thing going on. All 3 high schools in Olentangy Academy. The leader of this group, actually, I want to make sure that everyone knows I'm not doing this on my own. Rachel Dobney is the high school gifted specialist. She has helped me immensely. I don't think we would have got this off the ground without her. She's done a great job of sort of coordinating with the students. The schools on the right, when we started going to the meetings, there were 2. There was Granville, who sort of spearheaded this, and then Columbus North International School, which makes sense to have a Global Scholars Diploma. If you've ever been there, it's a pretty cool place. But it's really growing, and you see some of our schools who we've talked about earlier being part of this. And I like getting in early because we get to sort of shape the program. When you wait for all the kinks to get worked out, you sort of have to do what everyone else decided. I feel like right now we're kind of charting that course. We're doing a half-year pilot, so kind of a condensed version, just to get our kids sort of interested, see what they think, and then we're going to evaluate the program for next year. So the way it works, it has 3 levels. The 3 levels at the top are basically 3 years. So if you start as a freshman, you would finish your junior year. If you start as a sophomore, you would finish your senior year. Each of the 3 levels, have 3 layers, and this is kind of cool because in level 1, which our students are going through right now, there's experiences that they go out of the building and meet with a cohort of other students. Right now we're with West Muskingum, which is way out there, but they want to do a half year too, so we partnered with them. Next year we're looking into partnering with Worthington, maybe building a little closer connections to some students. The cool thing about the experiences are they're not on site. So the last 2 were at Franklin University, who's a partner with the Columbus Council on World Affairs. In 2 weeks, we're going to Honda Marysville for the careers event, which is a big deal for them. And then finally, the last one is they bring all the global scholars together for a summit at the end of the year. And the first year is just really about exposing them to global issues. Along with those activities that are off campus, the students also have some self-directed independent work. All of this is worked through a learning management system similar to Schoology, where they have some activities, some goals that they have to achieve. They submit that work to the Council on World Affairs. The council grades it, assesses it, and keeps track of it for us. So that's where we really partner with them. And then finally, and this is something we're still developing at the bottom, is looking at the school-based experiences. What classes do we offer that have a global spin on them? What classes should we be offering in the future that have a global context? And then also, how do some things like our travel programs that students go on, mentoring, volunteering, how does that all play into this? And obviously, we're in the first year, so we really want to explore the student experience and the school-based experience more as we work through the project. But in year one, they're kind of doing all three of these things. Year two is cool because year two is really focused on career exploration. They keep those issues in mind, but they also really look at career exploration and cross-cultural communication skills, which is the Columbus Council on World Affairs spends most of their time training business people from Columbus on cross-cultural communication. This is sort of their side gig right now. Level 3 is basically a capstone project that has to be presented to the council. Students can develop an area of expertise, a research project, a service project that goes along with their focus on one of the issues that they choose, and then they have to present that. So that again is something we're really going to develop as we go on with the level 3. I forgot to mention the 5 issues down here: global migration, human rights, food security, global security, and environment. I mean, those are affecting our kids today in Olentangy, and they're going to be working on the solutions to those issues. So we like the structure. I like how it builds. I like the experiences outside the district for our kids. I think that's really important. The last meeting we were at, they had someone from a different country for each of these issues talking about that issue in their country. And just reading back some of the students' feedback, it was really interesting to see what they took away from that experience. They always open up, I think, more when we take them out, and you really see them shine sometimes outside of the classroom. This was an important question when we started. A lot of parents and students want to know, what in the world are we going to get out of this? Is this a grade? Is this, some people want to know, what will this do to my GPA? All of these questions. And, I think that I understand that, but we want to make sure parents and students know this is about the experience. This is about getting to put into practice what you're learning and have an experience that other kids aren't. So the most important thing is the work portfolio, the things they're doing, the experiences they're having. That could easily become part of a college essay. That could easily become part of something you discuss in an interview. But I really feel like the work is what's important in the experience, and that's what we have to make sure we provide the students with. Yes, you get a diploma seal and some cords, which is great. Also, just the career experience and the cross-cultural career experience as we begin to partner with mentorship, which is already a great program we have, if we could really tailor that to this program. Third is the essential workplace and college skills. I mean, the ability to collaborate with students from different schools, to talk to adults, to be out and experience Columbus. I think that's a great skill. And then last but not least, and this is huge, and this is a college and career ready school, to have a network. You gotta have a network as a student when you leave high school. And you have to have a network that is going to promote you in terms of your academics, in terms of your internships that you want to have, and anything we can do to get our students out there to build a professional network of students and adults is going to benefit them in the end. So although we only have 50 students, we definitely have a plan to move forward. At this point, obviously we still need to evaluate the pilot, but based off what I've talked to with students and our discussions with the council is that we can make this what we want. And I look at this as something that we could do this on our own, but they have all the contacts for us. So it's a great partnership. So we're going to start recruiting new level 1 cohort. In April, we're going to try to double it and start another cohort of 50 freshmen for next year, so we'd have 100 students next year. We need to refine the curriculum a little bit. Like I said before, I want to make sure that it meets our specific needs. It's a little general in some areas in terms of what they ask the students to do. I want to really focus that on some issues that we have in Olentangy in terms of, and that's where I'm working with the diversity department and the diversity coordinator. Complete the pilot in June. We're going to give the students a little bit longer than the end of the school year just because they're sort of at an accelerated pace. And then in August, we're going to start it up with these 2 separate groups going at once. And I think in closing, the one thing that I want to make sure is that what we're not saying here that global competency is only for students in this program. This is something that we want to develop so that it seeps out into every classroom. And we don't want to have this be this kind of thing where it's like you have to come into this program to learn about the world. We want to show people that students are engaged by this and that in some form, all students need to have these experiences. So I think it's a great place to start, and I'm excited about the future of it. If you guys have any questions? Not?
Comments, questions?
So you have participants from all 3 high schools?
Yep.
But then how do they get together? Or
Well,
how do you
to
coordinate?
get down to the events, that's been
Yeah,
a
how
little
do
bit
you
of a challenge.
coordinate
The
that?
first
Yeah.
group that gets picked up has a long bus ride.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that for next year, and then we are going to start to have some meetings within like after school, before
Yeah.
school, and we're also going to help them find activities, quality activities to meet some of those requirements of the work. I would love to see them be able to, kind of have our own meetings here in district, but also outside of the district. They also, some of them came to the diversity conference,
Oh, yeah.
which was great. So I think that's another way to kind of bridge the gap.
Well, I had Julie's question, so thank
Okay.
you. But how did you get the students that we have? Like, how did
Yeah.
you reach them?
Well, that's a hard part here because you never know if you're going to get 400 kids
Yeah. Right.
or 50 kids. And really what we did was we had a meeting of teachers who we thought would be interested in the program, and we went and said, who are these kids? Like, who do you think they are? So through a mix of sort of their personal conversations, and then also we sent out sort of the general building blast, here's what this is. It just so happened that, we ended up at first with about 40 kids or so, and we had 50 seats available for it. And then we got a couple people came in towards the end. It just worked out nicely. Now in the future, if we get too many people, we're going to have to start thinking about how we deal with that. It's a good problem to have, though. And I think we can figure it out. I don't ever want to get to the point where we'd have to turn students away. I think we could figure out a way to make it work. But this time it just kind of happened through teachers who know kids who naturally would want to do something like this.
What is that called when a group of kids goes on like a retreat and they have to all represent different countries and like
The Model UN?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting because we have strong Model UN programs, and what we want to look at in the middle school is that becoming like a feeder
Yeah.
for this program.
Right.
And also, there's a possibility for us to create some version of this for the middle school even. So-
I've heard wonderful
It's-
things
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. I've never been the facilitator of it, but I've been in my previous district, and the kids, I mean, they're doing all of these things on a
Right.
very high level in middle school, a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Great report, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I can't give enough credit to Jack and his team, Vince and Anthony Elkins, our elementary curriculum director, or supervisor, and Jeanette, Peggy McMurray, our curriculum director. All the work they've done over the last, Jack's been with us now 5 years. Getting all of these arrows aligned in the right direction is what's got us to this point. Vince was too polite. I was the one, I started getting emails on the Global Scholars, and
They're
I said,
bugging you.
Vince, you got to do this. I don't have time to do all this, but he picked it up, and as with everything we give them to do, they just do a great job, so.
That's great. Any public participation requests for action items?
There is none.
Okay. So, Mr. Kern, would you like to present treasure action items?
Yes, Mr. Kent, I would like to present treasure action items A through E. A, approve board meeting minutes for January 14th. B, approve financials for January 2016. C, approve amended FY16 appropriations at the fund level. D, approve donations to the district. And E, approve amounts and rates as certified by the Delaware County Auditor.
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Feasel?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, and treasure action items pass 4-0. And Mr. Rafe, Superintendent.
Yes, I have superintendent action items A, make it so, it's a very long list, so I won't highlight anything in there, but A through J for approval.
A motion, please.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Kern, please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, and superintendent action items passed 4-0. Just before we conclude, this was a pretty unique and special board meeting, I think, a very special evening, and I don't know that you could have planned this agenda any better. When you think about the integration of technology, collaboration, outside the school, inside the school, cooperation, opportunities, extracurriculars, academic excellence, it was all there tonight. It was everything from a child with watercolor painting the word and spelling the word purple for the first time to high achievement academically. That is Olentangy schools. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
And any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Yes, thank you all for being here this evening. Good evening.